What's up everybody, David here, and welcome to the first episode of 5 tips and tricks for Studio One. For anyone that is new to my channel, this is a video series that I did for Sonar Platinum that I'm now going to start doing for Studio One because, well, I've recently switched to Studio One. It is exactly how it sounds. I'm going to give you 5 tips and tricks for Studio One. Something to keep in mind here is I try to stay away from more general and basic subjects because there's already so many awesome videos showing you how to do that kind of stuff. What I really want to focus on in this series is the small stuff, the quick things that really help you use the program better, use it faster, be more efficient, and just overall have a better experience. The kind of stuff that you hear and hopefully think to yourself, how have I lived without this? So enough talking, let's get started. The first tip we have has to do with panning your tracks, and that is that when panning you can move your mouse left or right, of course, or you can also use an up and down motion to pan your tracks. So up will pan to the right and then down will pan to the left. And the reason this is a good thing to know is something that happens to me all the time, and that's when I'm mixing and I'm really in that flow and I'm just moving really quickly. I'll go to make a left hard pan or a right hard pan, and when I do that, sometimes I'll mess up and slightly move my mouse up, and that will back off the pan and start to move it back to the right. So then when I went to hard pan it, kind of bounces back to like 83 or 90, and then I have to go back and fix that and re-hard pan it like I intended, and that just wastes time. So to avoid going back and fixing that stuff all the time, I usually just use the up and the down movements when panning because I feel like it's a little easier to control, especially when the inspector is on the left side of the screen like I have it now. Next is making small fader adjustments using the mouse wheel. So instead of clicking and dragging like what you would normally do with a fader, all you have to do is hover over it and then use the mouse wheel, and that will move it up or down in small increments. Usually it's 0.4 to 5 dB in the increments, but I've noticed sometimes it'll jump maybe 0.8 or 0.6 or something like that, but usually it's about 0.4 to 5 dB. So this really helps when making small movements and small adjustments like dialing in the level of these guitars, for example. The next tip has to do with MIDI velocity. So we're going to open up our drum track here, and let's say I have this drum track programmed and I want to modify the velocity of these hi-hat notes. Normally what we can do is just grab our pencil tool and modify the velocity down here, but the problem is when multiple notes are playing at once, if you modify this velocity, it will modify all 3 of them, or all notes that are currently playing. The way to get around that is actually just select all of the notes that you want to modify and then go down there and modify the velocity, and it will only change the notes that you have selected. It will completely ignore everything else. This makes editing velocities a lot easier. The next tip is creating and routing sends using the drag and drop function. So for the longest time when I wanted to create and route a send, I would just go to the track I want to apply it to, go to sends, hit the plus, add the effects channel, throw my effect on the channel, and I'm good to go. But there's actually a way faster way to do this. So we're going to open up our mixer in our browser just so we can see what's going on, and all I'm going to do to create a send for this bass track is simply select the plugin I want to put on the send and drag it into the sends area. So we're just going to drag that CA two-way into the sends, and we are done. You can see that it automatically created an effects channel, it routed that track to the effects channel, and it added the plugin. That's it. This is going to save you a lot of time when creating effects channels, and it's just 10 times easier to do. Now this next tip fixes a big pet peeve of mine with Studio One, and that is collapsing folders within the browser and the inserts menu. So I'm referring to the inserts with adding plugins and these folders, for example, and I'm referring to all of the folders inside of the browser, whether it be files, effects, or instruments. The problem I have here is that none of these folders automatically close, whether it be instruments, effects, files, or even in the actual inserts browser. If I add a plugin here and then I go back to mixing and I come back to it later and want to add a different one, all of these folders are still open. If I'm browsing through the files and I open up a bunch of folders and I'm done, I put the browser away and I go back later to look for something else, all of these folders are still open. And the kicker here is that even if you close Studio One, even if I shut this whole program down, when I open it back up, these folders will still be open. For the longest time, I was going back and individually closing all of these folders within the browser and even within the insert menu just because the OCD was absolutely eating at my soul. That was until I found the keyboard shortcut Alt-Up. So while in the browser, if you're clicking around, you're done with those folders, just hit Alt and then Up and it will close all of them. It will automatically collapse everything. This goes for every menu inside of the browser. So once you're done with your files, Alt-Up. Once you're done with your effects, Alt-Up. Once you're done with all your inserts, you don't need to choose anything else, Alt-Up, everything will collapse and go back to normal. This saves me a lot of time when browsing files because sometimes you can go 20 sub-menus deep and it's just so much work to go back and close everything one by one, so Alt-Up and you're done. Now that is it for today, guys. That is the first 5 tips and tricks for Studio One. Now I know the ones in this video were relatively small and quick subjects, but a lot of these I feel like will help you guys out. Some of them hopefully you didn't know before. A couple of these are especially good for new users of Studio One, especially the collapsing folders one, because that just bugged the hell out of me. So that is it for today, guys. Hopefully you liked the video, hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you'll be back for the next one. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. There's new videos every single week and you don't want to miss any content. Thank you so much for watching. My name is David and I'll see you next time.